these applications for opening of LCs pending with the State Bank of Pakistan. And we also know, and I think this is very important point from the statistics perspective, that there was accumulation of dividends at that time, but dividends were pending and foreign investors were unable to repatriate. So close to $2 billion dividends were pending for repatriation and were required to seek permission from the State Bank of Pakistan. So all that was not a good situation. So we started tightening of the policy rate, and we took various other policy and administrative measures, and as a result of that, the situation started stabilizing. And we also, as you know, entered into the IMF program standby arrangement and then subsequently extended fund facility. So all that and various measures taken by the government as well as by the State Bank in coordination with our stakeholders, particularly the banks and other institutions. So we were able to make good progress. And we have seen that since then the inflation story is now very good. Last month it was only 0.7%, which is an historic high. I will say close to 6 decades lowest inflation which we have seen last month in March. By the way, many people, I have seen analysts also writing that this was not in line with the expectations. So I can share with you from the State Bank side that this was exactly what we have projected and what we presented to our Monetary Policy Committee on 10th of March, that inflation for the month of March will be 0.7%. So it was exactly what we presented to the Monetary Policy Committee. So that's the reason I am mentioning is that since we have something like 30 PhDs working within this institution, and we are the only institution in the country which has such a large number of PhDs which have qualifications from all over the world. And I have been back testing the outcome of projections which they present, and most of the cases the case they have presented is actually is also actual outcome is more or less similar. So I can say with confidence that I have a 98% confidence level as far as the assessments of our teams are concerned. So and we have given the assessment that from current month onward the inflation will start rising, and but it will be within ultimately will stabilize within the target range of 5 to 7%, which State Bank has set number of years back. But alhamdulillah, finally we have been able to reach close to achieving that stability level in the inflation. So price stability is one of the core functions of the State Bank, and we will be achieving this goal successfully. 2 years back, nobody would have thought, and when we were talking at that time that we would be stabilizing the inflation at 5 to 7%, nobody was believing us. But over a period of time, we have, in coordination with other stakeholders, have taken measures, and alhamdulillah we will be achieving this milestone. Second issue, which is the inflation, which is the external account. So on the external account, as you have seen that we have already have stability in the external account also. Our external account, current account deficit, which was $3.3 billion in 2023, $1.7 billion, close to 0.5% of GDP in 2024. But for this year so far, it is in surplus. So we have for the first 8 months surplus of around $7 million. And good thing is that we have been able to achieve this surplus despite substantial increase in the imports. People say that as if there are still import restrictions, but let me share with you that when we started with dealing with this situation in 2022, at that time average imports, monthly imports, total average monthly import was around $5.6 billion. $5.7 billion, and out of that we had around $2.4 billion of oil imports and around $3.3 billion of non-oil imports. Currently, we have total imports, monthly imports of around $5.7 billion. And out of this $5.7 billion, non-oil imports are $3.8 billion. Average non-oil imports $3.8 billion, whereas the oil imports are $1.4 billion. So you can see the non-oil imports have increased from $3.3 billion monthly in mid of 2022 to currently $3.8 billion. So $500 million increase in non-oil imports. And despite that, we are in surplus as against $17.5 billion deficit which we have in fiscal year 2022. And this is also despite the fact that whereas the oil imports have come down from 2.4 to around $1.4 billion, so we have been able to save around $1 billion in oil imports, and we have been able to increase $500 million non-oil imports. And this is, by the way, this is despite the fact that there is around 13% increase in the volume of oil which have been imported, which is being imported currently, and there is a 17% increase in the volume of non-oil imports. And despite this increase in volume, both in oil imports as well as non-oil imports, we have been able to maintain a current account deficit, current account surplus for the current fiscal year. So those are the of us who are thinking that there is restriction on imports or the economic activity is not picking up. I think they should look at the data. And when they will look at the data, they will find that there is a substantial increase in the volumes of imports as compared to 2022, and there is also substantial increase in the overall surplus also, and reduction of deficit. And despite that, we have been able to achieve this level. I will come to the reason why we have been having a surplus, but this is the situation. And also look at the exchange rate, which is quite stable as a result of this surplus and other policy measures which we have taken, including the exchange companies reforms, including the reforms in the financial foreign exchange market, and also various other regulatory measures which we have taken from the state bank side. As a result of that, the foreign exchange market now is functioning very well, and you have seen that the gap between the interbank market and the open market is now very narrow, and it is in line with the practices in other countries also, and as such there is no pressure on the exchange rate. Good story is on the reserves. You can see that, as I mentioned, early February 2023, reserves bottomed out at $2.8 billion, which was hardly 2 weeks of imports. And since then, they are gradually increasing. So currently our reserves are $10.6 billion, and some people say that this is a decrease of around $2 billion during the last couple of months. So there is a reason for that. Let me also share with you that why this is a decrease. So we have debt obligations, new debt obligations, which was supposed to be serviced, and we have been servicing all those debt obligations on time. Whereas some of the inflows which are expected earlier, they will be received later, but they will be received before 30th of June 2025, so this year. So what we are hoping is that I'm quite confident that we will be receiving another $4 to $5 billion before the end of June this year. And with that, our reserves, which we previously projected, will be around $13 billion. We have now revised our projection upward, and now our reserves will be more than $14 billion by the end of June. Despite this recent depletion in the reserves, we have been able to upgrade our assessment from $13 billion to $14 billion, and we will be, inshallah, achieving as a result of receipt of this additional $4 to $5 billion which we are going to receive before June this year. Now, let me talk about remittances. As you have seen, our remittances have been consistently increasing. But none of you sitting in this room, as well as other analysts which have been closely tracking the remittances data, would have thought they have no even slight clue of the level of remittances which we have for the month of March. Nobody ever expected that we will be able to achieve this level. Let me share the number with you. So for the month of March, we have received $4.1 million in remittances for the month of March, which is the historic high. And as a result of that, we have upgraded our assessment for remittances for the full year, which was previously $38 million to $36 million to now $38 million. So for full fiscal year 2025, we will be having total remittances of around $38 million. And for the month of March, as I said, it is $4.1 billion as against 3.1 crores to 3.2 billion dollars which we received last month. So this is around 33% increase when we compare the first 9 months of fiscal year 24 with the first 9 months of fiscal year 25. In fiscal year 24, we have received $21 billion, and during the current year up to March, we have total already received $28 billion, from $21 billion to $28 billion. So there is a $7 billion increase in remittances for the first 9 months. And as I said, for the full year, the total remittances will now be around $38 billion. So with this level of remittances, we are hoping that for the current fiscal year, our current account will stay in surplus. And there will be a substantial surplus. And this surplus is the best performance, I will say, on the external account during the last 2 decades. And as you have seen, this has enabled us to have normal trade activities, and this has enabled us to increase our reserves also, and this has enabled us to have stability in the exchange rate. And I think this trend we are hoping that it will continue. Let me also talk briefly about the debt situation. We have total debt payable, foreign exchange debt payable, foreign debt for the current fiscal year of $26 billion, around $26 billion. And out of that, as I have been updating at various forums also, that we have a $16 billion debt which was supposed to be either rolled over or refinanced. So close to $3.7 billion which is refinanced, and close to $12.4 billion which is rolled over as per the understanding given to us by the bilateral partners as part of the IMF program, that they will continue to roll over. This is still the currency of the program. So after this $16 billion, the total repayable amount was $10 billion. Out of that, $8 billion have already been repaid. So only $2 billion more is repayable during the remaining period of this fiscal year, and that's the reason when we will be receiving around $4 to $5 billion before June. So we'll be able to build up our reserves, and that's the reason we have upgraded our reserve assessment from $13 billion to $14 billion. So now let me briefly turn on the growth, because people have been talking about the economic activity slowdown and growth slowdown. So yes, the growth slowdown, there was a contraction of 0.2% for the fiscal year 2023, and last year the growth was 2.5%. But when the last year growth was 2.5%, the agriculture growth was more than 8%. So with the support of 8% growth in agriculture, we were able to have overall growth of 2.5%. This year, for the first half, the growth is 1.5%. So 1.5% growth is and last year, agriculture for first half was 7%. So from 7%, agriculture has gone down to less than 1% for the first half of current fiscal year. And despite this substantial reduction in agriculture growth from 7% to less than 1%, the overall growth is 1.5%. But if this growth in agriculture would have been the same level of 7% which was there in the first half of 2024, actually our growth for first half would have been more than 3%. And for the full year, the SPP projection, as we have been mentioning in various assessments, that for the full fiscal year, the growth will be between 2.5 to 3.5%. Actually, recently, what we have point in estimate is that our growth will be around 3% for the fiscal year 2025. And if the agriculture growth for the current fiscal year would have been the same level of 8%, which was last year, then actually the growth, overall growth would have been 4.2%. So you can see the economic activity has already picked up. And this is reflected in our high frequency data. Look at the cement sales, look at auto sales, look at the high value added textile exports, look at many other indicators which we have been tracking. So every indicator is indicating that the economic activity has substantially picked up. But it's not fully reflective in the growth numbers because of the drag for current year from the agriculture side. If the agriculture would have been similar, then the growth would have been much better for the current fiscal year. So you will see going forward, we will have a better reflection of these economic activities in the growth numbers also. And with that, look at the economic surveys and the assessments which are being done by various stakeholders. So you will see the consumer confidence level, the business confidence level is increasing. We have been conducting survey in coordination with the Institute of Business Administration, which is an independent body, and as a result of those assessments, we have seen that the consumer confidence as well as business confidence is consistently increasing. And as I said, this is also reflected in different economic activities which are high frequency indicators which are there, and going forward it will be better reflected in that. So I think lastly I will briefly mention that now we have already have IMF program, as you know, review has been conducted, the staff level agreement has been reached, and with that once the board approval is given, then we will be receiving further funding, but it will also untap various other inflows which we are expecting post review, and hopefully by June we will be having inflows. We are, by the way, are also very closely interacting with the rating agencies also, and we have